Hi there, my name is Andrew Karas. I'm Chief Operating Officer at Engel and Volkers, Vancouver, and this is On Top of the Market. Welcome to On Top of the Market, Engel and Volkers podcast. I'm here with Mike Brandt from the Next Door Group. I'm Andrew Karas, Chief Operating Officer of Engel and Volkers Vancouver. And today we're going to talk about the pandemic in 2020 and how it affected real estate and how things might change coming into 2021.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
This year was very interesting from our EV exchange in LA as if almost nothing was happening. And now look, here we are, several months later. I think March and April were two very interesting months. Not knowing what to do, or our team had several offers under contract, and all of a sudden you couldn't even get to subject removal because lawyers' offices were closed, appraisals weren't running, inspectors weren't showing up and going into properties. So how do you get to the finish line if the systems weren't implemented for us to get there? So over those 2 months, it was very dry, it was very depressing. It was also scary because nobody knew what was happening. I think as we got to the end of April, I just turned 40 at the end of April, and it was like a birthday present. Because appraisals went back to work, inspectors were working, lawyers were figuring this stuff out, and all of a sudden now you could transact. So it was gangbusters. And I think somebody put it into perspective the other day. They described these times as the 3 Ps. Peloton, puppies, and properties. We all know someone that has ordered a Peloton. We all know someone that has adopted a puppy, Brittany White, Molly Rowe, and then properties. And I think that was obviously where we came in and why we're here right now. A lot of our clients were, I used to call it the COVID shuffle. If COVID-19 was going to be affecting us the way that it had over the last 2 months. At that point, you were not comfortable staying in your condo downtown or having to get in and out of an elevator. And like face facts, if your firm's office is no longer welcoming you in the office and asking you to work from home, why would you want to live close to downtown? Now you can work in Worcester, you can work in Penticton, you can work in Pemberton, you can work in Bowen Island, Victoria, the Fraser Valley. You don't have to live 20 minutes from the office. So the COVID shuffle began. Mm-hmm. And that was everybody leaving their environment where they were cramped, wanted more space, wanted more garden space, and all of a sudden the market was hot. And we were super active. Like picture it, if you want to take an elevator down from work or to go to work and you live on the 30th floor and they're 30 stories above you, you can't get in the elevator with somebody else. So you're not walking down 30 stories, it's taking you 30 minutes to potentially take out the garbage or take your dog for a walk. So yeah, the moves happened a lot. Then there were other cases that were not as positive. Maybe you were getting divorced and you don't want to live in your same property with your partner anymore, and you can imagine what that's like. So there's a buyer that's very motivated. You've got someone that has a baby, and now they need more space. We have a baby coming in January. Mm-hmm. We are having a COVID baby. Mm-hmm. So it happened to a lot of us. I think divorces and babies were like 2 of the ways people were going. I'm glad we went baby instead of divorce. Yeah. The market shuffled very quickly, and I think one of the things that we did was just reaching out to our clients and honestly, sincerely saying, look, what is the status? Like, how can we help you? All of our listings came off the market. Nobody could sell, wanted to sell. We had aging clients, and you don't want strangers going into their home. So we took it off the market and waited for a better time to transact with them when they were ready.
Yeah. You know, the biggest thing I noticed in the real estate market over 2020 is just in Vancouver, we've never really experienced it, but it was a truly local market in the sense that everybody that was transacting obviously had to be here. There was no foreign buyers coming in. And I think a lot of people saw that as being the demise to the real estate market in Vancouver. That's always what they've talked about in the past, is that, without foreign buyers, prices will come down, and it didn't happen. What we saw is a colossal shuffle. People were looking at their homes and realizing how important that space is to them, and they're trying to figure out where they need to be or what they want to do. And of course, the moving, not needing to be at work was a massive part of that.
Big part of it.
Yeah, big, huge part of it. I think the other thing that you said that, let's go back to March again, and let's talk about what that felt like, because here I am trying to, run an operation, trying to give advice. And what are we giving advice on? We don't know. Yeah. Like, nobody knew what was going to happen or where it was going to go or how this thing was going to manifest itself, right? And so I felt incredibly lucky. I remember Anthony Hitt doing an after hours. Anthony Hitt being the CEO of Engel and Volkers Americas, and he did an after hours program, and he's just started it by saying, what we're going to do is we're going to treat everyone with genuine love and care moving forward. It's all about compassion. Yeah. It's not about transactions right now. And I think that people, realtors like yourself and teams like yours, that went out and said, what do you need from us right now to the clients? Yeah. And then we all just were able to kind of adjust accordingly and it was a lot of on the fly. I mean, thank goodness for Richard Bell at Bell Alliance. I mean, the amount of time he spent trying to figure this out for us on how we were going to do transactions. People needed to still do deals. We were an essential service, which sounds sort of not nearly as important as a nurse or a doctor, obviously, at this time, but people needed to make change. They had to get their equity out, or they had to shift themselves to a different situation. And that's what 2020 was all about. It was like this big, colossal shift in everything. And so I've read Malcolm Gladwell's book called The Tipping Point. Yep. I've been using this from the very beginning. This is a tipping point in our society on how people are viewing living in their homes and being in their homes, and the value of their advisors with people such as yourself. So how did your team really, like, in this big unknown, how did you adjust and make it, get yourself to a point where you were servicing them correctly?
Well, it was interesting, because how do you sell a home where someone's not welcome in that house? It's kind of a big challenge. I think we actually found a very fast way of becoming very efficient in our processes. Mm-hmm. We want to allow someone that has been vetted properly to go in the house. No, you want to vet the client before they get to go inside the house, and obviously put risk of passing on COVID, if they have COVID, to the homeowners. And this has now become a very common occurrence. You're seeing the Matterport, you're seeing the floor plan, you're seeing the virtual walkthrough, the video. A lot of those were systems that we were using in the past, but now it's, when somebody sends us a showing request, it's not automatically confirmed, I'll see you tomorrow at 2:30. It's, have you seen the floor plan? Do you know the outlook? Have you seen the virtual tour?
Have you signed the waiver?
Have you signed the COVID waiver? Have you done all of your due diligence? Mm-hmm. Now I won't show a property until someone's driven by. Mm-hmm. They've seen the floor plan. So now, when you're showing the property, now it seems like about a tenth as much as we used to, because we're showing it to looky-loos, or people that haven't been pre-qualified, can't afford it, etc. So now the buyers that are coming through are very qualified. Mm-hmm. I've spoken to the agent on the phone. They know exactly what to expect when they come through the door. So if you like it and you've gone through all of those systems, the chances of you liking it once they've gone through the property is really high. Yeah. So actually our houses and condos were on the market way less and showing it way less, but only to qualified buyers. So therefore we're being more efficient. Yeah. We're likely getting an offer a lot sooner, and there were no question marks. So the feedback generally to our sellers were all very positive. So we had to jump on new systems to be more efficient and lower the risk for everybody. There were no open houses anymore, allowing 30 randoms from the neighborhood coming through the house. It was simple things like that made a big difference.
You know, we should discuss or bring a shout out to Bronwyn on your team, Bronwyn Burles, who was a real leader for me during this time. And it was exactly the process you were talking about. Is the teams that had the advantage of or teams or advisors or any individuals that were used to doing this service, you know, the floor plans and the Matterports and the virtual tours and so on, if they had those tools in place, then they were way ahead of the competition at this point, right? But the thing is that the people that were out there looking were usually, like, we're talking just after March, April, into May, those people were needing to make a move of some sort, right? Oh, yeah. I mean, those people were needing to get into the marketplace. And Bronwyn showed us how you could take the Matterport tour and tour somebody through it. I used to really, to be honest with you, the Matterport never did I never liked how it worked as a user.
Yeah.
But when you have somebody touring you through it and showing you the things that you need to be seen and being able to show you where you are in the apartment using the floor plan, which is what Bronwyn was sort of teaching us to do, taking your buyers or taking other people's buyers or other realtors on an online tour of the property before they go see it, was a really great way to use that tool to kind of move it forward. And it was a real service to your clients to be able to stay ahead of it.
Yeah, it was ingenious.
Yeah.
Because you really want someone to walk you through the home and point out the key features to it.
Well, Mike, I'm going to stop you for a second. Not just the key features, but the things that they needed to know that were maybe a deterrent.
Yeah.
Because you didn't want to waste your seller's time. I said at the very beginning of this, we need to make sure that full disclosure is given on every property right now. If you're on a busy street, you should tell the people you're on a busy street. Yeah. But we were so used to promoting properties in the past, was just trying to showcase how beautiful everything is, all the positives, just get them in the door and we'll sell them, right? Yeah. And now you can't do that. No. And so that was one of the big shifts that I saw, and Bronwyn on your team, I thought was one of the best at kind of engaging into that right away and making sure. She had a listing, I remember that she said she did, I think it was 6 tours and ended up getting 2 showings and getting offers from both of them. Yeah. Because she was able to vet them in the right way, which was phenomenal.
Over the moon.
Yeah. So what other technologies do you think are going to come out of this? Like what are you seeing as a digital technology platform right now? What do you see coming and being kind of maybe more used, more prevalent in the marketplace? Or what direction do you think we're going to be going here from the virtual showing sort of standpoint?
Well, just to add something to that.
Yeah, go.
If you look back in time during a lot of the major crises, from wars to pandemics.
Tipping points.
Yeah, tipping points. A lot of the new systems that get introduced during these times are typically adopted for longer periods of time. Like look at lawyers. A digital signature was never an option. Like that's not okay. It needs to be witnessed. Someone needs to be there. You're now able to go through almost a full conveyance process without actually seeing somebody. You can now do it on Zoom. Systems like that are making us more efficient. And now lawyers must be so excited that this is actually allowed. We're allowed to use an AuthentiSign or a DocuSign to sign a contract. Lawyers are now doing it as well. So the personal contact will obviously have a bit of an effect on that, where you're not connecting with as many people face to face as we're used to in the transaction. I think some of the digital platforms that we're using now and how it's going to change, I think open houses are going to be less used in the future. Sellers don't necessarily want strangers in their homes. How can we do a showing or an open house and limit the number of people in our home? And I think those virtual walkthroughs are going to be very important. You're seeing some of the pre-sale companies actually doing virtual reality walkthroughs of properties, different floor plates, seeing different views in a room just like this. They're not actually walking into the display suite, but the technology is allowing us to do virtual open houses and walkthroughs of different floors, whether it's a penthouse or the ground floor unit, the townhouse, the house, the laneway. You can do virtual walkthroughs of properties without risking anybody getting sick. So just small things like that, I think the technology is going to ramp up and we're going to have some amazing options soon.
See, I see that as a double-edged sword in some ways, right? The virtual technology for you and I at Engel and Volkers in particular, being an international company, well, I can start selling property in Boston or Minneapolis or in San Francisco or wherever because I can maybe bring them into my boardroom and show them around actually being inside a space right now. Yeah. But do we lose the personal side of it, like the personal sort of attachment? I know when I'm out working with somebody, I need to know what they're up against. I need to know what their thoughts are about a property. Sometimes you need to be there in person to get it. So is there a mix that you see in the future? Is there a way to stay personal with your client and still be virtual at the same time?
I think it's a question of, are realtors going to be, what's the right word? It's another word for not needed.
That's a word we do not want to use.
Obsolete. Yeah. And I think absolutely not. I think there's going to be a level of technology that needs to be introduced to keep us safe, make us more efficient, and get you the right amount of information. But where I'm where I'm finding we were needed the most was in a time like this, where clients were calling us asking for honest opinions, like, get me out of trouble. I need you to stand in my corner. Listen to me. These are my problems.
Yes, right.
Get me out of my situation. A computer's not going to solve that problem for you. A computer may be able to tell you what your place is worth. A computer's not going to be able to tell you, should you be doing this? Should you take this offer? An agent that knows what they're doing and is an ethical agent is going to give you the right advice for the client. And no program is going to answer that question for you.
I would suggest that the answer to my own question that I just asked you would be that I think agents might go away, but advisors will never go away.
Correct.
And so from an advisor standpoint, knowing the background story to your clients is so crucial.
Yeah.
I think that the technology that we're putting in place right now, from digital signatures to just being a little bit more sort of business-like in some capacity, I think our biggest problem in real estate is pace. I think that people are always in a rush to do really major decisions. And so I think that if we could slow down the pace, but keep the technology, then maybe our systems can get into a better place that maybe help and increase our advisor role, opposed to just being, driving around town and signing paperwork,
Yeah, I guarantee you I spent less time purchasing the property that I live in now than the car that we just purchased.
Yes,
So
yeah, it's true. But you probably also know more about property than you do cars, maybe.
I hope so.
So it might have been an easier decision, is my point. Let's step backwards here. Let's talk about the market again. We kind of came into, let's call it April, May, and then the summer hit. And summer, typically, if we want to talk about Vancouver real estate, typically our normal motion is January, February, we creep into a busy March, April, May, June-ish, right?
Yeah.
Depending
on how nice the weather is and how inviting a patio and rosé.
In Vancouver, the playground of summer will definitely take that over. Yeah. So we get into June, and then July is okay, August is dead, right? September picks back up for a couple of months, and then we're kind of slow again this time of year. So what happened in 2020?
Well, if you take out 2 months, like we didn't see one transaction see a subject removal and deposit check in the 2 months of March and April. Those 2 months are typically very busy. So if you take out 2 months out of the mix, and then you put us in this world of the COVID shuffle, I think the ramp up demand was insane.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a lot of agents have worked as hard as they have from May 1st until December 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Like we haven't had weekends, we haven't had weeks off. It's been flat out for 9 months, however many months it has been, but it's been a while. So this has not been a normal market at all. Sellers and buyers of asset, when do you think a good time is to pull the trigger? Is the summertime a good time? What should we be doing throughout this year? And the advice was, if you were ready to make a move, make a move. Because there was no high, there was no low. I feel like it was completely gangbusters for the entire time.
It really was. I mean, it was insane, to be honest with you, especially the consistency of it. Like, there was never really a week that just kind of like dropped off. It was just a straight fly through. A lot of the suburbs, correct, right? Was coming out. Everything else. What other markets?
Well, just going back to that is why it wasn't slow in August is, where was everyone going on vacation? Nowhere. No one is getting on an airplane. Maybe you were going to Whistler or the Naramata or somewhere in BC. But I think some of the biggest markets were, where are you allowed to travel? BC. And we've all just realized the most amazing province in the entire world is here in our backyard.
Mm-hmm.
So where are the markets getting busy? I talked to Max and Maggie and the Whistler office, and I don't think they've ever been this busy.
Oh, high-end stuff too.
That high-end market is actually busier than almost any other market.
And in Aspen, in Vail, and in Telluride, I've talked to all those markets. They're all having the exact same experiences.
Why? Because everybody wants to go buy something in their backyard.
And they can be remotely working. Right?
Exactly, because you don't have to be downtown.
Yeah.
So now Whistler's going gangbusters. Anywhere, all of the major rec property areas, I was looking at some of the stats yesterday. Some areas have gone up 16%. That's insane.
It's insane, yeah.
Yeah, so when you're seeing lifts like that in rec areas, it's because there's a lot of money in Vancouver, local money, that's being spent in our backyard. Because everyone's realizing, let's go for a quick drive, a 2 to 3 or 4 hour drive, and we're going on our trip that we would have gone to Europe. If you've got a big budget to go travel with your family on an annual basis, you're now spending that on your home.
I went on the most incredible canoe trip, like canoeing, up at Turner Lake, which is in Tweedsmuir Park, northern BC. It changed my life. To be honest with you, I've never experienced anything like it ever.
And do you think you would have done that if you were stuck to BC this year?
So in this case, yes, because we did plan it prior to, but the experience was different because of COVID, if that makes any sense. Like we went there with a different sort of vision on the world and what we were experiencing. And so we really took in British Columbia. It was also empty because all sorts of different things. We're not going to get in and waste everybody's time on that. But it's an amazing part of the world. It's an amazing place. So this leads me to something really interesting question. Okay, so we can all agree that the local markets was driven Vancouver during 2020 because it had to be. We did see very few international buyers, really. I mean, in comparison to what we're used to. And over the past few years in Vancouver, the government has been putting, taxes, vacancy taxes, speculation taxes, foreign buyers tax, all these taxes to try to give an opportunity to locals again to buy real estate, but it did nothing to change the prices. Everything went up and detached, stayed pretty solid everywhere else, just kind of reinforcing how strong our market is, I think, as far as that's concerned. So 2020 was a very busy market locally. It was different than what we've seen in the past as far as the type of people that were transacting. I think there was confidence in the market because of the fact that it was more local. Like I think locals knew that they were dealing with a local market, so there was no unknown about how the foreign market's driving things up. But here's my question. We're going to go into 2021.
What's going to happen?
Okay, COVID is hopefully, let's be real here. 2021 is still going to be a difficult year for a lot of people in a lot of places. We do not know how the rollout is going to be for the vaccine. We hope it's quick and swift, but we don't know. But eventually, Vancouver is going to be a big bullseye again for the international market. So how is that going to go when the time is right? I mean, here we work at an international company. We talk to all the people everywhere. Everybody's been dealing with the pandemic. So it's been a very equal playing field. But when people have that opportunity, right now in Vancouver, people had the opportunity to move locally. They got to choose if they wanted to live in Deep Cove because they like the ocean and they want to be close to the ocean. They got to choose to get a bigger house in Langley because they didn't need to be close to the city anymore. But what about international people? When they get the choice to be in the playground, what playground are they going to choose? Is it going to be Vancouver again?
I think so.
I do too.
I think the government implementing all these taxes have kindly given the foreign investors a middle finger saying, welcome. But there's another side to that story. You put a tax on it, that means you're protecting something special.
That's right.
So somebody's going to look at that tax and say, listen, there's obviously something amazing here, let's go check it out. And the number of calls that I got from Americans during the whole voting gong show, let's put it that way.
We haven't even talked about the election, which is interesting.
No,
but yes.
I think a lot of the clients that we were getting calls from, Americans, were fearful of what could happen if it went one way over the other.
Yes.
So that was the reason for a lot of the calls. I think since Biden has now taken a solid and confirmed lead, those calls have started to dwindle. However, if you look, there's a newspaper article in the New York Times with how well Bonnie Henry dealt with all of the COVID in BC and keeping the numbers down. Now you're creating a stir from people in Europe. We've got calls from Germany, Spain, still in the US, Asia. You guys are dealing with it really well. I'm uncomfortable with the situation that I'm in right now for whatever reason, safety or several other, a wide array of reasons why these potential buyers were looking to move here. There must be something special about Vancouver. And when you mentioned that there's a 20% tax or potentially more, or an annual percentage on your BC assessment and the value, it was, oh no, that's okay. There was not a question of, oh, is there a way around it? Can I buy it in the Canadians? If I know a Canadian, can I put it in their name? None of those conversations came up. They said, it's okay. How much roughly will it cost? Okay, do you have an immigration lawyer? That was literally the next question rolling off their tongue. Mm-hmm. So I think we live in an amazing place. It's going to cost a lot of money to live here. It costs a lot of money to live in New York, Japan, Hong Kong.
Any major market.
Exactly. And this is an amazing place to live. It's very safe, and the level of education is phenomenal. So
yeah, it's safe. The other thing, I got interviewed by Business in BC earlier during the pandemic, and they were asking me the question if I thought there was going to be an influx for the United States. They talked about the election, all sort of stuff. So let's not talk about the election, and let's not talk about COVID.
Okay.
Let's talk about climate. Okay? And what's happening in the West Coast, down lower in California, we are very Californian when it comes to our mentalities and how we look at the world, and they're very democratic and all that sort of stuff. But we got tech companies, we got movie companies, very, very similar industries. Yeah. I think there's so many different reasons why 2021 is going to be slower for this sort of stuff. But let's look forward into 2022. Like, do you think that there's a good opportunity for people to buy in 2021? Because when these things open up, the people who are looking for not just get away from politics in the United States, because a lot of people are still upset with how the politics went, regardless of who's in power. Yeah. The fact that it was allowed to go as long as it did, or that it happened in the first place, was the problem. And then number two is how we dealt with the pandemic. And I wouldn't say that we've dealt with it any better than a lot of countries when it comes to the numbers. I mean, we're all sitting here right now still in the middle of it and still got things to do, but we dealt with it with compassion. Yeah. So it's about how Canadians react to things like this, and then you top it off by the space, the environment, the nature that's nearby, and the climate. Yeah. I think that's going to be the big kicker when it comes to the future of our real estate, is people are going to be looking for that place that's safe, good temperature and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So I guess what we promised at the beginning of this podcast was that we were going to give a review of 2020. And we can say it was unpredictable because we've never been through anything like this. Yeah. We definitely experienced a tipping point when it comes to, we're in the middle of a tipping point right now, I would suggest, as far as how the world is dealing with this. And I think we need to keep a real keen eye on how technology is being used by us, and we need to make sure that we're being advisors. Yeah. That's the key. Moving forward, we had a hot market. It slowed down a bit recently, but that's partly because people are trying to get ready for the holidays and the weather's not as good. What's going to happen at the beginning of 2021? What do you think? Is it going to pop off again?
$1 million question.
It's $1 million question, but you're a top 8 advisor, so you need to be able to answer these things.
We're actually not slow right now. Everyone on the team is actually very busy, and I think it helps that the interest rates are so low. Right. I think if the borders do start opening up, those interest rates stay low, we start getting more tenants, the Airbnb market, the tourists coming back up here. Mm-hmm. Let's see what happens to Worcester. Airbnbs are super slow. Right. Booking a day on the mountain is like booking a golf course in a tea time. So there's some complications when it comes to travel, which means the friends coming to visit and paying you rent to help you fill that laneway or your investment property have been a little tiresome. If you look at the downtown market, it's pulled back a lot. Lots of inventory, not a lot of sales, long days on the market. Whether you like it or not, your boss is likely going to be calling you saying you need to come back to the office. Mm-hmm. So what's going to happen when all of these big spaces downtown, look at the Amazon, the headquarters that's going to be in the post office. You've got 1 million square feet that need to be filled. Oh, yeah. Someone's going to be working out of there, and someone's going to need accommodation. Not all the employees are coming from Vancouver. And I think now, looking at what's going on with the prices downtown, I think there are going to be some amazing opportunities to jump in and get a deal. I haven't seen any deals in Vancouver before, but I feel like there could be some really good opportunities to buy investment properties downtown. It's going to be a big market. In your entire real estate career, when have you ever thought that Vancouver downtown was a slow market? Have you ever seen downtown a slow market?
No, not slow. No. Definitely not slow.
And now I would describe it as slow. Yeah. We did a tour the other day with some clients just looking for a 2 or 3 bedroom property. and the amount of agents that said to me, please bring me an offer, we'd really like to see an offer.
Yeah.
No one's ever said that to me in a downtown tour.
So we haven't experienced many downturns, me and you. We've been very lucky that way. But there has been lulls in the market, little pauses. And those pauses, people always think that that's where it's going to fall off the cliff. And if those people who got in during those pauses are typically the ones that were, really excited at, 5-6 years down the road, right? Yeah. We can only liken it, like a lot of people have been talking to me, Andrew, what's going to be happening, right? And I said, well, ask Mike Ramp. That's what I said. No. A lot of people are asking me the question, Andrew, where do you think it's going to go? But it's really difficult when you can't analyze something to compare it to. And the pandemic is a worldwide issue. It's not a real estate issue. We've talked to people in Atlanta and Honolulu, and we talked to people in New York, and we've talked to people. That's the benefit of where we're at right now is I can talk to all these people. We're all dealing with the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't know how Vancouver is going to react during this, but we can say, and I think my guess is that, especially talking about downtown market, is that there's going to be a little lull. And if there's a little lull and things do come back, this could be an excellent time to buy. But I do think that it's going to continue to be a little slower. Number of sales, I'm not saying a price drop. Yeah. Number of sales will be less next year. That's my guess. How do you feel about that? Am I wrong?
Well, I'm going to give you an analogy about Canadians, specifically Vancouverites. Let's go back to 2010. Vancouver Canucks make it into playoffs. You see 10% of the cars driving around Vancouver with a Canuck flag on it. We make it into round 2. Now we're at about 25% of the cars have Canuck flags on it. Then we get into the final round. We're now in the finals. And day of game 7. Literally every car has 99% of them have a Canuck flag and 1% have a Boston flag. We lose that game. Everyone is taking the flags off the car, burning them, flipping cop cars and starting riots. So everyone is, I find that a lot of Vancouverites are on the bandwagon or off the bandwagon.
Yes, true.
And when everyone in Vancouver is buying real estate, everyone in Vancouver is buying real estate. When should you be buying real estate? Not when everyone's buying real estate. You should have bought it before everyone was buying real estate.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
You want to be buying it when everyone's fleeing.
That's right.
So I think that's going to start being a little bit of the trend now. We're going to start seeing a little bit more transactions in the early part of the year. And then we could see, I'm not saying we're going to see a massive increase in price or a massive increase in volume, but I think next year, in my opinion, will be likely similar to what we just experienced overall, because it's going to be more balanced over the whole year.
That's true. We missed 2 months last year, so it's hard to.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And we keep track of stats. Jesse Dean Cook in West Van, he sends us the monthly stats and he analyzes them till he's blue in the face. And the summaries that we're seeing is, yes, the numbers are very low this year, but they're not all-time low. Mm-hmm. And I think the next year could have some healthy numbers, but again, you're not going to be a realtor helping people. You need to be advisors, advising people.
Everybody's got a different position.
100%. This is where families really need your help. They need a professional that knows what they're doing, that's using the right technology to help them through the process.
Yeah, like we were just talking about, it's like I can't use any sort of reference to anything in the past, and that's usually what we like to do. Is we like to look at something. The closest I can think of is 2008, just because there was an election and there was the market crash. Yeah. So we had two sort of similar things happening. The difference in 2008 was that everybody stopped everything they were doing. It was like no transactions, whereas we have transactions happening right now. I also think that you're exactly right, is that everybody's circumstance is just going to be so different from one another that as long as you're taking their personal situation into account, there's always a decision to be made one way or the other. Yeah. You won't know what it is until you meet that person. So everybody's situation will be different. I couldn't agree more. So 2021 forecast, just to kind of top it off, is that we're thinking it's going to be consistent.
I do.
I think I agree with you on that. I don't see any sort of massive drop. I do think that as soon as our borders open up, I think watch out world, because I think Vancouver is going to hit the map again. And I do agree with you that the foreign buyers tax isn't going to be as big of a deal. I think that people are going to look at that as the cost you have to pay to live in Vancouver. And I actually think that people were okay with it, would have been okay with it years ago too. It's just that it was more, like you said, it was instigated as a slap in the face. And to a certain culture, which I thought was totally inappropriate as well. This whole city's been built on the growth of immigration through all sorts of different countries, all over the world. So I do believe that that's going to happen again. I think that the government, if they're smart and they want to make sure, because economy is going to be our big issue. I think from the growth of economy, small business is going to be a big issue. Yep. We all know a lot of people who are suffering through that. But if you treat people with love, compassion, and care, genuinely, then I think you'll be able to help them out. Yeah. And hopefully those people get through the economic sides of it. And I really think that we're going to see an influx probably in 2022. But that's not what this is about. This is a forecast for 2021.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, buy local and help our friends out that are here.
That's what I was going to say, is that one thing we can do as Vancouverites is really support what we have going on right here in front of us. I think one thing we've learned is that we've got everything we need right in front of us. And then I think that if the government's smart, they should welcome the world back to Vancouver. And, that's the future. Our future population will be based on that, future investors and so on.
Yeah.
Anyway. I really enjoyed having you on today, Mike. We've had these conversations before, but we've never had it in a formal manner like this. First time with cameras in our face as well, so well done there. That pretty much sums it up, is who knows what we're going to get. The pandemic is still here.
Yeah.
But I do think that if we just focus on genuine care and compassion, that's the focus of what we're going to do moving forward. So thank you so much, Mike. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. I'd shake your hand, but I can't.
Yeah, we're not going to be shaking hands, and we'll get our masks back on as soon as we can. But I really appreciate you being here. Really appreciate you being a part of it. And hopefully all you listeners and viewers enjoyed what we had to say. Yeah. Thank you for watching On Top of the Market. Remember to subscribe and turn those notifications on. You can like below and leave a comment and let us know what you'd like us to talk about in the future. Cheers.